Welcome to the Deep Dive, your shortcut to being genuinely well-informed, with surprising facts and just enough humor to keep you hooked. Today, we're plunging into a question that's, well, really top of mind for many in medicine right now. Is AI truly ready to reason through complex, real-world patient data, or is it, still just a super fast lookup tool for facts? Our deep dive today is all about the latest breakthroughs in GPT-5's medical capabilities. And what the new research makes clear, really, is that we're seeing real signal, not magic, not hype.
And that's quite a claim, isn't it? You have researchers like Dr. Daria Onuta saying things like, GPT-5 is able to predict the outcomes of experiments that we haven't even done. I mean, that sounds almost sci-fi. So our deep dive today is going to explore exactly what kind of evidence backs up statements like that.
Right. So for you, our listener, our mission is basically to cut through all that noise. We're sifting through two recent papers that look at GPT-5's medical performance from really interesting angles. One takes a broad view, its ability to reason across different types of medical data, and the other narrows right in on the incredibly high-stakes world of AI interpreting brain tumor MRIs.
Yeah, and what emerges from these studies, I think, is a pretty fascinating overall picture. GPT-5 looks like a very strong generalist reasoner. It's showing encouraging, though, still imperfect specialized behavior. And this is exactly the kind of technology that, with careful implementation, with the right guardrails, is actually becoming ready for real-world application.
Okay, so given what we're seeing, why is this ability, GPT-5's ability to reason across different data types, why is that so crucial in medicine right now? I mean, think about it. Clinical work is just inherently multimodal, isn't it? Doctors are constantly pulling together so many different pieces: patient history, labs, vitals, imaging scans, prior records, and then often under high-pressure uncertainty, they have to make these critical decisions.
Precisely. And this is a fundamental shift from how older AI systems worked. Traditionally, they were very narrow, right? Often focusing on just one type of data. An AI might be brilliant at detecting, say, a specific nodule on an X-ray, or maybe expertly parsing a single sentence from patient notes. But that's where its capability pretty much ended. It couldn't connect those dots. GPT-5 fundamentally changes that game. It can ingest both text and images simultaneously. And what's really critical here is its ability to maintain a chain of thought. That means it can actually process information step by step, kind of like a human thinking aloud, and then stitch together insights from all those different data types. It's a massive leap forward.
And this ability, this directly impacts you, the patient, and really anyone involved in healthcare. If we're striving for safer patient triage or faster second opinions on critical cases and, genuinely more informed conversations between doctors and patients, then this kind of strong multimodal medical reasoning isn't just a bonus. It's absolutely essential to improving care. And that's precisely what these two studies aimed to track, wasn't it? They wanted to see if GPT-5's impressive capabilities could, travel from those typical classroom-style textbook questions, all the way to the gritty, nuanced, real-world pattern recognition that clinicians rely on every single day.
Exactly. So let's get into the specifics. What did these studies actually test? The first paper, it really focused on that broad multimodal reasoning. It challenged GPT-5 across a range of well-known medical benchmarks, MedQA, MMLU, medical subsets. You can think of these as tests of core medical knowledge. Also, USMLE-style items, like the licensing exams. And crucially, two important multimodal data sets, MedXpertQA-MM and VQA-RAD. These are specifically designed to see how well the AI reasons by combining info from both text descriptions and medical images, like scans. And this study compared GPT-5 not just against GPT-4o, its predecessor, but also against pre-licensed human experts. So think medical students or recent grads who aren't fully licensed yet, and the setup was key. Zero-shot chain of thought. Which means the AI wasn't pre-trained on these specific questions. It was prompted to think aloud, show its reasoning step by step, like a doctor explaining their thought process. The goal was to see if it could truly reason and integrate visual context, not just spit out a memorized answer.
Okay, now shifting focus to the second study, the one on brain tumor MRI reasoning. This was a neuro-oncology paper, so studying brain cancers. It developed a specialized benchmark for visual question answering, VQA, using brain tumor images. It used data from the BRATS cohorts, these are widely used, standardized data sets of brain tumor MRIs, covering common types like glioblastoma, meningioma, metastases, different kinds of brain cancer, essentially. So the researchers showed the AI models these triplanar MRI mosaics, images from 3 different angles for a full view, plus structured clinical cues like patient symptoms or history. And then they asked very targeted questions. This wasn't just, radiology board trivia. It was a highly practical task. Pick the most likely tumor class by integrating both the complex image data and the patient's clinical context. And the models tested. GPT-5, its smaller variants, GPT-5 mini and GPT-5 nano, and also GPT-4. So let's get to the results. Across that broad multimodal evaluation, GPT-5's medical performance, well, it clears a notable bar.
Right.
This isn't just a small step up. It signals a major leap, suggesting AI is genuinely starting to integrate diverse medical data and reason, moving it much closer to practical use.
Indeed, it's a significant milestone, and here's where it really got interesting, I think. On that MedXpertQA MMM dataset, GPT-5 didn't just beat GPT-4o, it actually surpassed those pre-licensed human experts on combined reasoning and understanding. Honestly, for many of us tracking AI, this is kind of a groundbreaking moment. It shows AI not just processing, but genuinely understanding and applying complex medical knowledge like we haven't seen before. The numbers really make the point. The findings show GPT-5's multimodal reasoning, the MM average came in at an impressive 72.18%. Now, compare that to the expert pre-license group at 45.53%.
Wow.
And GPT-4o at 42.80%. It's a stark difference. It really highlights GPT-5's strength in integrating text and images, shows the power of that chain of thought and visual understanding.
But okay, let's shift gears to the MRI benchmark results, because here, while the accuracy is promising, the researchers are quite clear. It's not yet clinic ready.
Right, and that's an important distinction to make. The data in Table 2 shows something quite interesting, too. GPT-5 mini, the smaller version, actually had the highest macro average accuracy at 44.19%, just slightly edging out the full GPT-5, which was at 43.71%. These absolute numbers, though, they're a bit of a sober reminder that specialty imaging, especially for something as complex as brain tumors, remains incredibly hard, even for advanced AI. The study also points out that performance varies quite a bit depending on the specific tumor subtype. And the overall conclusion is pretty unambiguous. None of the models are yet fit for unsupervised clinical use. So what this means practically is even with GPT-5's impressive progress, you absolutely need human supervision, careful calibration, and really rigorous prospective validation in actual clinical settings before you can think about widespread use.
Okay, so what does this all really mean? Why are we seeing these really impressive results in the broad reasoning tasks, but, more modest numbers for the specialized MRI interpretation? What explains that gap?
Well, I think two key trends really explain this. First, GPT-5's medical reasoning gets a huge boost from diverse evidence and what we call textual scaffolding. When the prompt gives it the full picture history, vitals, labs, and an image, the model just has more anchors to work with, right? This helps its chain of thought reach more reliable conclusions. But in pure image classification, where the signal is scarcer and it's all about incredibly subtle visual nuances, well, that's where specialized radiology models, often trained only on millions of images, still tend to have an edge. Second, and this is fascinating, routing and scale matter. The fact that a smaller variant, GPT-5 mini, actually did best on the MRI task suggests something about inductive bias. Basically, the way that specific model was designed or trained might have given it a particular advantage for that type of imaging. Maybe its architecture was better suited or the training data had some quirks. It's a really crucial insight. Don't just assume bigger is always better for every specialized task. Sometimes a smaller, more focused model wins out.
Right, that makes sense. Now, this is where GPT-5's capabilities really shine. Let's walk through that detailed MedXpertQA example you mentioned, the one that really highlights its reasoning. So imagine a middle-aged patient. Comes in with epigastric pain, elevated lipase suggesting pancreas issues, and CT scans showing pancreatitis after, say, alcohol use. Pretty standard stuff initially. But here's the critical pivot. After initial treatment, the patient suddenly develops suprasternal crepitus, that crackling under the skin near the throat, and blood-streaked emesis, vomiting blood. The whole story has changed. And GPT-5 shows this remarkable shift of gears. It immediately flags esophageal perforation, specifically a critical condition called Borhave's syndrome, a rupture, and then bang, recommends a specific action plan. A water-soluble contrast esophagram test, MPO, nothing by mouth, broad-spectrum antibiotics, urgent surgical consult. And crucially, it also explains why other tempting diagnoses, like just a stomach ulcer, are now totally wrong given this new life-threatening situation.
That is a perfect example of AI clinical reasoning. Not just look up. It's not simply retrieving a fact. The model is actively tracking the time-ordered events. It correctly weights those new red flags, the crepitus, the vomiting blood, as higher priority than the initial pancreatitis. And most importantly, it maps those new symptoms to a concrete, potentially life-saving action plan. That's dynamic problem solving.
Yeah. And for clinicians, for the teams building these AI tools, this is exactly how you need to evaluate GPT-5. You're looking for models that can genuinely change their mind when the story changes, adapt to new information, and maybe even more importantly, models that can state the consequences of missing the pivot. clearly articulating the risks if that critical shift is missed.
And that point about GPT-5's answers often being quite persuasive, that's absolutely critical. It's a feature, yes, it allows clear communication. But it's also a significant risk if the AI happens to be wrong but sounds convincing. So you need really robust procedures to ensure that persuasion is always aligned with reality. So what does that mean practically for safety and validation? Well, first, you need prospective trials. Think shadow deployments. The AI gives its assessment, but an attending physician still makes the final call. This lets you measure real-time performance. And it's vital to measure sensitivity to distribution shift. How well does it perform when data changes? Different hospital sites, different MRI scanners, image quality can vary hugely. Second, ground truth discipline. Non-negotiable. Separate your development labels from the real adjudicated clinical ground truth. Avoid training on your test set. Keep a clean holdout data set for unbiased evaluation. Always. And finally, human factors. Hugely important. The interface design matters. You have to surface uncertainty and contraindications clearly, make it easy for the clinician to see the AI's confidence in any warnings. And critically, make it easy to disagree with the AI, not awkward. You need a system where human judgment is clearly valued and encouraged.
So, okay, with these powerful capabilities, but also these important limitations, what's the takeaway for people in healthcare or tech who might be thinking about building with GPT-5? The core advice seems to be, treat it as a powerful reasoning layer that absolutely needs robust, domain-specific safety built around it.
Precisely. Here's some really actionable advice. First, design for reading, not black boxes. Force the model to show its work. Persist those intermediate rationales. Maybe even ask it to critique its own plan before giving the final output. Transparency builds trust, helps humans understand. Second, tie outputs to actions. Don't just stop at likely diagnosis. Push it to generate the next steps, the specific tests, the crucial watch-outs things to monitor closely. That's where the real clinical value is. Third, calibrate uncertainty. Not every task needs a definitive answer, right? Sometimes you need a precise risk score. So build in temperature checks and abstention policies. Actually reward the model for deferring when it's unsure rather than just guessing. And finally, maybe most importantly, close the loop. This is critical for getting better over time. Log outcomes. Feedback the post-hoc truth, the confirmed correct answers to continuously improve prompts, refine guardrails, fine-tune the models. Performance only improves if you meticulously close these feedback loops.
Okay, let's tackle the big question I know is on everyone's mind. Is GPT-5 a replacement for human doctors?
Unequivocally, no. The right frame here is absolutely complement. Doctors bring irreplaceable context, human values, and critically trust to the patient relationship. A vast memory across countless guidelines and incredibly fast synthesis of information. They have distinct strengths. And when you connect this back to the study results, particularly those broad reasoning benchmarks, GPT-5 scores strongly suggest that pairing clinicians with this AI will raise the floor performance in so many day-to-day clinical decisions, making sure a high baseline of care is met.
Right. But on the specialist reads, like those tough MRI interpretations, the data points clearly to a support role, not one of autonomy.
Exactly. And that support role is key. You'd use the model to, say, propose differentials, a list of possible diagnoses, to highlight edge patterns a human might miss after looking at hundreds of scans, or to flag contradictions between report text and image evidence that just don't quite add up. And this is absolutely crucial, you let the radiologist call the ball. The human expert always makes the final call.
And I thought Dr. Dario Dudas put it beautifully. It's beyond collaborator. It's almost like a mentor. That's a really powerful way to think about it.
Yeah, statements like that really capture the feeling for scientists and clinicians actually using these tools day to day. GPT-5 is not a replacement. It's more like a relentless second mind that critiques, suggests, and reminds. That's how we should talk about it to patients and staff.
So for those of you listening, maybe in healthcare or tech, thinking about actually building with GPT-5, the research offers a really practical blueprint.
Yeah, let's break it down. 3 key areas for success. First, data and evaluation. You absolutely need to assemble multimodal cases. That means pairing images with all the related structured data fields and the free text from charts. Your prompts need to look like a real patient record. Then, build unit tests for reasoning. Codify the step-by-step reasoning you expect the model to follow, and verify its intermediate answers, not just the final one. And finally, track subgroup metrics relentlessly. Don't just look at averages. Slice your data by tumor subtype, scanner model, age, comorbidities. Understand where performance varies. Second area, product and UX, the user experience. You have to create explainable views. Show the user the specific text and image anchors the model used. Make it easy to copy and edit those insights into their notes. And crucially, implement guarded autonomy. Maybe allow auto-drafting of notes or orders only within really well-defined safe scenarios, safe envelopes. But everything else, especially high-stakes stuff, always needs a human click for approval. And ensure patient-facing clarity in portals. Keep language clear, supportive, encourage questions, don't present AI output as unquestionable conclusions. And third, the engineering the stack. Think about routing with intent. Maybe use the full GPT-5 for broad chart synthesis, but for narrow image-first triage, maybe GPT-5 Mini or other specialized models. Use caching and drift checks for stability in instructions and guidelines, and monitor changes in model behavior and input data, and maintain meticulous audit trails, a fully reproducible trace from prompt to output for every single recommendation. Trust me, you'll want this for any post-event reviews.
So looking ahead just a bit, what near-term improvements can we realistically expect to see with GPT-5 and similar AI in medicine?
I think 3 key advancements are definitely on the horizon. First, better calibration. Research on confidence estimation for these large multimodal models is moving fast. This will lead to safer abstention. The model will get better at knowing when it doesn't know and deferring instead of guessing. Second, retrieval-grounded reasoning. This means blending GPT-5's reasoning power with specific local information like hospital guidelines or detailed imaging atlases. This will tighten answers, make them more relevant, and importantly, reduce the chance of hallucinations or making things up. And third, few-shot domain tuning. Using small, very carefully curated sets of specialized cases to fine-tune the model. This is likely what will push that MRI accuracy well past the current mid-40s, probably getting it to useful assistant levels, still providing significant clinical value, but critically not to autonomy. Now, so the bottom line from this deep dive is pretty clear, I think. GPT-5's medical capability, it's real. It offers genuinely strong AI clinical reasoning for integrated multimodal tasks. And it provides competitive assistance for tough areas like AI, brain tumor MRI, though it absolutely still demands human supervision.
Yeah, so if you're evaluating GPT-5 versus human doctor performance, the broad data really screams augmentation. Use this model to expand attention, to help standardize quality across care settings, and absolutely to raise the floor of day-to-day medical decisions, while clinicians, with their irreplaceable judgment and empathy, keep that ceiling of care high.
And for those of you billing in health tech, the message is start now. Find a specific workflow where multimodal reasoning can really help. Design for transparency from the beginning, measure relentlessly, and crucially, always, always keep a human in the loop.
The teams that truly figure out how to pair human strengths, that judgment, that empathy, that nuanced understanding with GPT-5's incredible capabilities, well, those are the ones who will undoubtedly set the standard for the next decade of care. So maybe something for you to think about. What entirely new medical breakthroughs, or perhaps even totally new models of patient care, might emerge when this powerful partnership truly begins to flourish?